The X Hotel, room 1208. Your girlfriend is checking into a room with someone else. At 6 o'clock in the evening, a stranger sent me a message like this. I don't want to believe it, but my girlfriend has been acting a little strange lately. Finally, I decided to go and have a look. Good news. The green hat has been taken off. Bad news. My innocence is gone. 1. The X Hotel, room 1208. Your girlfriend is checking into a room with someone else. Who are you? What do you want to do? After waiting for a long time, there was no reply from the other side. Only this unclear message reminds me that I'm being cuckolded. I didn't want to believe the other party. I wanted to think of it as a prank. Megan and I grew up together and have been together for almost 5 years. I don't want to doubt him. However, my girlfriend has become more and more impatient recently. His increasing frequency of leaving home early and returning late, even staying out all night, made me suspicious. I sat quietly for a while and finally decided to go and take a look. After some hesitation, it was already past 8 o'clock when I arrived at the hotel. After waiting for a while downstairs, I followed a man who was also on the 12th floor into the elevator. The man was very tall and had a very imposing presence. His face couldn't be seen clearly because he was wearing a mask, but his eyes that were exposed were very beautiful and sharp. When the elevator was moving upwards, the other person kept staring at me with an extremely aggressive look, and I felt a little offended. But I'm busy with my own things right now and have no time to care about anything else, so I'd better turn around and ignore it. 2. 1208. I stood at the door, not sure whether to knock. In fact, I had a hunch that once this door was opened, Megan and I would never be able to go back. But I can't let others play me for a fool like this. What's the point of being so confused? I took a deep breath and prepared to knock on the door. Unexpectedly, a hand passed over me and started banging on the door. I looked up and it was the guy in the elevator. What a coincidence, he also came to catch the adultery. Open the door, Carter. I know you're in there. Open the door for me. Don't make me kick it down. As soon as these words came out, the door opened a crack. The guy who was breaking the door just pushed it open. A cry of pain came from inside. Brother, I was wrong. I was just confused for a moment. It was this woman who seduced me. Brother, I really know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Go back and play however you want. I will listen to you, brother. Carter rolled and crawled to his knees at the man's feet, hugging his thighs and begging for mercy. The man kicked her away. Don't touch me. It's dirty. Carter, are you a man? You still have the nerve to say that I seduced you. Who was the one who followed me around so desperately? I heard a familiar voice from inside, and I couldn't deceive myself anymore. Megan saw me walk in and stopped scolding me instantly. Mason, why are you here? I smiled bitterly. I should be the one asking you this, Megan. Why are you here? Megan turned her head away from my gaze. Am I not good to you? I really don't understand. I don't think I have done anything wrong to Megan. I don't understand why she did this. Even if you don't like me anymore, just say it. Why do you treat me so badly? The guy who broke the door, Dao Jin Ma, sat on the sofa and stepped on Carter's hand. Carter fell down at his feet. You are really good. You are clinging to me and picking up girls at the same time, without any delay. Brother, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me. There are so many people here, and the scene is really ugly. I can't continue. That's it, Megan. We're done. Don't go, Mason. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Megan hugged my waist and said, I didn't have sex with him. Please forgive me. I pried her hands apart. You just didn't have time yet. Megan, I don't want to make things too awkward. Let's just part ways amicably. A sneer suddenly came from the side. I turned around and saw the man who was banging on the door. Mason, after all these years, why are you still such a wimp? You haven't made any progress at all. Your wife has already shit on your head. It's better to part ways amicably. 3. The man came over and shook off Megan's arm that was hugging me. Megan lay on the ground, raised her head and glared at him. What does it have to do with you? Who are you? This is between us. Stay out of it. The man squatted down and looked at him. In terms of relationship, you should call me brother, but unfortunately, I don't want to have a sister like you. The man took off his mask, and I realized that he looked familiar. You are Eric? I was a little hesitant. After all, we hadn't seen each other for 7 or 8 years. Besides, my memories of my youth are somewhat vague. Eric is Megan's half-brother. Megan's mother took him with her when she remarried, and that's how Megan was born. I remember that when I was little, I loved to play behind my older brother Eric. Later, something happened and Eric's biological father took him away, leaving only Megan and I to grow up together. Ah, you have a conscience, you actually recognized me. But you always called me brother when you were little. Eric must have been very happy to see that I recognized him. The corners of his mouth curled up and he touched my head like he did when we were kids. I was a head shorter than him when I was a child, and I didn't expect that I would still be a head shorter than him when I grew up. I frowned and shook my head away. Don't touch my head. Eric didn't care whether I was willing or not, he just touched himself for pleasure. Still as domineering as when he was a child. Your personality hasn't changed. You're still as cowardly as when you were little. Eric stroked his chin and looked at me for a moment. You haven't changed in appearance. Your face is still as fair and clean as ever. I feel very uncomfortable now and don't want to reminisce with Eric. I glanced back at Megan. We're done here. Megan wanted to say something, but I opened the door and prepared to leave. Eric grabbed me and said, "Wait for me for a moment. I have something else to deal with." I looked back at the man kneeling on the ground with mixed feelings. I'll wait for you outside. I walked out of the room, took the elevator to the next floor, and found a random seat in the lobby on the first floor to wait for Eric. I slumped in my chair and rubbed my face with my hands. What's going on today? You can go in a group to catch an adulterer, and the key is that they are all old acquaintances. It's a small world. Moreover, I never thought that Eric was actually gay. What are you thinking about? I think you're gay. Oops. I said what was in my heart. Eric probably didn't expect me to be so straightforward and was stunned for a moment. Yes, I like men. Eric stared at me while speaking. Here it comes again, that extremely aggressive look, as if it can see through my clothes and into my body. I feel a little uneasy. Everything that happened today is so confusing. I just want to find a place to have a good sleep. But Eric obviously didn't think so. Long time no see. Let me treat you to a meal. Eric patted my head. What's wrong with you? Don't touch my head. I glared at him secretly. Eric immediately glared back. I treated you to a meal and you glared at me. Humph. I turned my head away and stopped looking at him. Okay, don't think about those unhappy things. Come on. I'll take you to eat something delicious. Eric grabbed me and I got into the car with him. Confused. Eric took me to a private restaurant. It was not in the business district and was quite remote, but the environment was good. The box is also soundproof, which is suitable for us, grown men who are both cheating on our partners, to drink and vent. That pretty boy is not my lover. Eric denied it again and again, fearing that I would link him to that pretty boy. That guy used to be a bar hostess in a gay bar. One of my friends saw that I had never been alone, so he wanted to find one for me. He knew I liked men, and after looking around, he chose that pretty boy. I didn't want to offend him, so I stayed, thinking I would find a chance to send him away later. Who would have thought that this guy would take my money and drive my car to pick up girls? Eric was furious, but I was fine with it. At least it's not like me, who lost both the wife and the army. The more I thought about it, the more bitter it became. Eric and I drank one cup after another, and finally we just drank from the bottle. Not long after, I became unconscious. I vaguely seemed to hear Eric calling me, but I didn't have the energy to reply. Then I felt someone splash water on me and I sobered up a little. Afraid of drowning in the water, he had to hold on tightly to the only piece of driftwood at hand. I don't know how much time passed before I felt my body floating in the air, as if someone picked me up and then put me on the bed. The bed was very soft and I bounced twice. Then a dark shadow appeared in front of me, and I tried to push it, but I couldn't. Then I heard a tisk-tisk sound in my ear. Someone was kissing me in the ear. An ambiguous voice lingered in my ears. and suddenly I felt a sharp pain on my lips. Who was biting me? I struggled to escape, but the man wouldn't let me go. I was a little annoyed, so I just bit the other person. Bite harder than the other. I heard the other party hiss, and I felt a little proud. Humph! You dare to bite me, you must feel the power. The other person seemed to smile, but I wasn't sure, because my consciousness was getting heavier and heavier. 5. When I woke up again, it was already the next afternoon. I opened my eyes dazedly and felt a splitting headache. I couldn't react to where I was for a moment, until I touched a piece of warm skin, elastic and slightly hard. I pinched it unconsciously, and when I saw who was lying next to me, I was immediately awakened by the fright. Why are you here? Eric propped himself up on his elbows and looked at me. You don't remember what happened last night? I was horrified. What happened? I lifted the quilt and saw everything naked. Some scenes seemed to emerge in my mind: warm flesh, extreme tenderness. My eyes went dark and I wished I could faint again. Eric smiled, then pretended to be serious. You slept with me last night. You have to be responsible for me. What? Do you want to listen to what you are saying? Eric looked aggrieved. You're not going to deny it, are you? You got drunk yesterday and hugged me, crying and laughing, and then you vomited all over me. I could only get a room and bring you up to take a shower, but I didn't expect you to rub against me and hug me. I'm at an age full of vigor and vitality. How can I stand this? I wanted to give you a gentle kiss, but who would have thought that you would hug me and nibble and bite me? How could I resist? He argued so convincingly that I kind of collapsed. Eric scratched the back of his head and said innocently, Plus, I drank a little too much, so I just didn't know what was going on. I was helpless. Then can you find me some clothes? Certainly. Eric threw back the quilt and got out of bed, carefree and naked. I tightened the quilt around me and turned my head away, afraid of seeing something I shouldn't see. Eric didn't feel awkward at all and walked in front of me openly. Why are you wrapping yourself so tightly? It's not like you haven't seen this before. I gritted my teeth. This damn gay. I only breathed a sigh of relief when the waiter brought the clothes and put them on me completely. Damn. Eric makes me cringe when he sees me. Well, it's getting late. I have to leave now. Eric stood aside with his arms folded and looked at me. Oh, you deny it after you put on your pants. This makes me sound like a heartless person. Eric, I'm not gay. This was just an accident. I stared at him and said seriously. After a long pause, Eric came over and touched my head. I see. He didn't say anything else, but I felt a little uncomfortable. 6. Eric picked up his coat and said, Let's go eat first. I'll take you home after dinner. He has recovered and I can't say anything more. We sat opposite each other and had a relatively quiet meal. Eric didn't say anything else to confuse me, but he was very considerate of me in his actions. I really didn't know what to say, so I just lowered my head and ate my meal. I still feel a burning pain all over my body. I never thought that Eric, who looks like a veteran, is actually so bad. After dinner, Eric took me back. I can eat at the dining table to divert my attention, but now I feel really uncomfortable in such a narrow space. I looked around at the decorations in the car and started to make small talk. You've become rich driving such a nice car. It's okay to run a small business. If you like, I'll let you run it for 2 days. No, I'm afraid you'll scratch me or rub me, and I can't afford to pay for it. It's okay. I can give it to you. I was silent again. Brother, can we just pretend we didn't meet today? I'll still call you brother when we meet again. Eric stopped the car and looked at me. Mason, it happened. I can't pretend it didn't happen. 7. Finally, I got home and threw myself on the sofa. In just 2 days, my girlfriend was gone and just go to bed. Maybe it was because of meeting Eric that I had a dream about my youth. At that time, I had just finished the junior high school entrance examination, and Eric had failed the college entrance examination. He spent all day wandering around and was called a gangster by the adults. Brother, what's wrong with your face? Did you fight with someone again? I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Eric turned his head away to prevent me from touching him. I looked at the wounds on Eric's face with heartache. I don't know what happened recently, but Eric's face often has bruises and purple spots. Megan's father was very angry and said that he had done his best to raise him. If he wanted to stay at home again, he would have to pay 2,000 yuan for food every month. Eric agreed, but there were few job opportunities in the small town and he had no education, so it was difficult for him to make money. Later, I found out that he worked as a bouncer and thug in some entertainment venues, and he injured himself all day long. I took out iodine and applied medicine to him. Brother, why don't you go to a big city? I heard that there are many opportunities in big cities and you can make a lot of money. Eric was silent. I sighed. Do you want to stay here forever? Eric finally spoke. I won't stay here forever. Wait another 3 years. Why we have to wait another 3 years, I don't know. After this summer vacation, I will go to high school and get rid of the shadow of the past. But the town is so small, and the more you don't want to run into someone, the more likely you are to run into them. Hey, isn't this Mason? You didn't even say hello when you saw us? Are you thinking about going to heaven? Come on. We're in a good mood today. How about you kneel down and crawl over and we'll spare you? I clenched my fists so tightly. It was just a few of them again. Sometimes I really wanted to kill them and be done with it. But Eric said that I was different from them. I had a future. I had good grades and would pass the exams in the future. Good days were ahead of me. He said that if anyone bullies me in the future, I should tell him and he would solve all my problems. So I kept enduring, but in return they just kept getting more and more demanding. What are you staring at? Hurry up. Do you think we can't do anything to you just because you got into high school? You have to kowtow to your grandfather when you see him in the future, or I will go to your new school and tell you how you receive customers. The three of them burst into laughter. I don't understand how a person can have such evil thoughts. I was cleaning in a bar and a drunk guy hugged me in a daze. These people saw it and started to tell everyone about me. My father died early, and my mother raised me alone. The thing she often said was, "Don't make trouble. Don't make trouble. Only Eric, only he will help me. Only he will teach those bastards a lesson for me. They have ruined my 3 years. I will not let these bastards ruin my 3 years again." I picked up a piece of scrap steel pipe on the ground. Hey, are you planning to resist? It seems that the previous lessons were not enough. Brothers, show him some more color. In the chaos, I couldn't see anything clearly. I just waved my arms mechanically, using all my strength to vent the resentment that had been pent up in my heart for many years. When I opened my eyes again, Eric was holding me in his arms. Both of us had blood on our faces and hands. I moved my hands and found nothing in them. The steel pipe was held by Eric. The three people opposite were lying on the ground in a mess, and their situation was unclear. That was the first and only time I saw Eric cry. After that, Eric's father suddenly appeared, took out a large sum of money to settle the three people, and took Eric away. Not even a goodbye. When I woke up, it was still dark. I just remember that I seemed to dream about Eric, but I couldn't remember what I dreamed about. 9. As the year draws to a close, work is busier than usual, so I don't have time to think about random things. Yes, I have to move. I didn't plan to live in my original house, and it just so happened that an alumnus had been trying to get me to share a house with him, which isn't far from the company. I might as well move to his place so I don't have to run around looking for a house. I didn't contact Eric actively afterwards, but he came to see me many times. Most of the time he just picked me up for a meal and then sent me home. Occasionally he would invite me to his house, and after I refused, he would obediently send me home. I happened to be caught by him while moving today. He wasn't too keen on me moving in with another man, but I didn't care. Eric had no choice but to help me move with a sour face. "Senior, where did you find this person? Why does he look so reluctant?" "It's okay. Don't mind him, he's just like that. He has a naturally sour face." I looked at Ian and said, "We've already graduated, so don't call me senior. Just call me by my name." "Okay, Mason." Ian is, as his name suggests, a lively little son, full of energy and vitality every day. I quite like being with him. Eric watched from a distance, and somehow his face seemed to become even more sour. "I'm over there. struggling to help you carry your luggage, and you're over here flirting with other little boys? What nonsense are you talking about? Read more books and don't use words you don't know how to use. Humph, don't laugh like that. You're just teasing me. I rolled my eyes. Do you think everyone likes men as much as you do? Eric hit my head twice angrily. Ah, don't touch my head. Ian suddenly came over and said, "You two have a good relationship. Young man, how come your eyesight is not working well at such a young age?" 10. I wasn't able to go home for the new year last year, and this happened again this year. I actually don't really want to go back. But my mother called me early, and after thinking it over, I decided to go home. It's not my fault, why shouldn't I go back? The plane landed and reversed, and it was already evening when we got home. My mother was busy serving me food. Mom, I can do it myself. I was eating while my mother sat beside me knitting a scarf. Seeing that I had almost finished eating, my mother put down her scarf and turned to look at me. Mason, you and Megan, how are you two doing? Mom, I broke up with her. Don't mention her anymore. My mother suddenly became anxious and pulled my hand. Why? You've been together for so many years. How can you just break up like that? I really can't tell the truth. There are no secrets in this small town. If I tell it today, Megan's reputation will be completely ruined tomorrow. In the end, I had to say that our personalities were incompatible. My mother held my hand and advised me earnestly. When two people are together for a long time, friction is inevitable. As long as it is not a matter of principle, just turn a blind eye to it. Mom, let me decide my own affairs. Don't worry about me. The next day, when we were having the New Year's Eve dinner, I drank a few more glasses and my head started to feel a little dizzy. I held on until 12 o'clock, when the fireworks were over, and then fell headfirst onto the bed. When I opened my eyes the next day, I saw Megan lying next to me. My heart was pounding and I almost fell off the bed. 11. I lowered my head to check myself. Luckily, my pajamas were still on. I was relieved a little, but I couldn't help asking, "Why are you in my house?" Megan was about to cry. "Brother Mason, why are you so fierce?" It was my aunt who let me in. "You've slept for a long time. It's almost noon. Auntie is calling you to go out for lunch. Okay, you go out first. Next time you enter my room, knock on the door," I said with a somewhat impatient tone. Megan looked a little hurt and lowered her head. "I know, Mason. I just got used to it. I won't do it again next time." What the hell is this? I knocked my head and thought, I have to develop the habit of locking the door from now on. After washing up, I went out and saw Megan standing at my door, talking to someone. "Who is it?" No one," Megan said and was about to close the door. But I was stopped by someone outside the door. The two of us were in a stalemate for a few seconds, and then I walked over. Eric was seen holding something in one hand and leaning against the door with the other, looking very unhappy. Hearing the noise, Eric turned his head and looked at me, staring at me with his dark eyes. I feel inexplicably guilty. "Why are you here?" "Why, I can't come over and disturb you." Eric spoke rather rudely, with suppressed anger in his eyes. Without waiting for me to retort, he threw down the gift he had brought, pulled me up and walked out. Fortunately, he remembered to help me take my down jacket before leaving. Eric pulled me and we stumbled all the way to the park outside the community. This guy was very strong. My arm hurt from his pulling and my ears were frozen red. I frowned slightly, and Eric had a gloomy look on his face, as if he would pounce on me and punch me at any time. Eric stared at me, and I looked at him warily, afraid that he would suddenly attack. We confronted each other for a long time. He hesitated for a moment, then raised his hands to hold my face and cover my ears. I was a little surprised. His palms were hot and felt uncomfortable against my face, so I struggled slightly. Eric's eyes suddenly turned fierce. "Don't move. Mason, you're awesome. You know I knocked on your door with great joy, but it was that woman who opened the door. Do you know what I was thinking at that moment? I really want to kill you." 12. His voice was very soft, but I felt like the devil was whispering in my ear. "Eric, calm down. I have nothing to do with her anymore. Then why do you still let that woman into your house? Haven't you been cuckolded enough? When Eric yelled at me, I became rebellious and yelled back, "Get lost. You're the one who's not tired of being cuckolded. You faggot. Let me go. I've been acting like a sheep for a few days, and you really think I'm easy to mess with, don't you?" Eric was furious. He pulled me in front of him and suddenly bent down to kiss me. You could say it was a bite, so quick and fierce, as if he wanted to tear a piece of flesh off my lips. This is a park, and many old men like to play chess here. What if they are seen by someone? I opened my mouth to warn him, but he took the opportunity and penetrated my mouth deeply. He kissed me so aggressively that I had trouble breathing. Just when I felt like I was going to drown, Eric finally let me go. "You bastard!" I was so angry that I kicked him twice. His black trousers were instantly stained with 2 stains. Eric didn't hide. He looked at me straight in the face. "Tell me the truth. You don't want to get back together with her, do you?" His eyes were so scary that I didn't dare to confront him. I avoided his eyes and said, "No, I don't know why she came here. She must be here to wish everyone a happy new year." "That's good." Eric looked relieved. He looked at me and rubbed my face with his thumb. I felt a little itchy and turned my head away. "I'm sorry, Mason. Please don't hate me." "I don't hate you." I pursed my lips. He forced me like this, but I didn't hate it as much as I thought. At most, I was a little angry that he was so domineering. How could that be? Could it be that I was gay too? 13. I felt a little complicated for a moment, but Eric was obviously very happy. He immediately pulled me over and said he wanted to go visit my father and mother. I was a little flustered. You are not allowed to go." Eric's eyes turned cold. "You kissed me, you touched me, but you don't even want to give me a name?" I was so anxious that I blocked his mouth with my hand. "Don't talk nonsense." Eric tilted his head and kissed the palm of my hand. I pulled my hand back abruptly, the wet feeling still lingering on my palm. It felt weird. Eric squeezed my palm and said, "Just be obedient and keep your distance from that woman, and I won't say anything nonsense." When I got to the doorstep, I started to feel worried again. I grabbed Eric and said, "Look, there are no marks on my mouth. You didn't bite it." Eric lifted my chin and looked at me. "It's red and a little swollen, but I don't think it's noticeable." As he said this, he lowered his head and gently kissed the corner of my mouth. I grabbed his hair and asked, "What are you doing?" "Sorry, it was too tempting. I couldn't help it." "Ah, damn gay." But shamefully, I was a little shy. "Happy New Year, Auntie." "Eh? You are Jingchen?" Mother was a little uncertain. "Yes, Auntie. When I was a kid, I often came to your house for meals." "Hey, come in quickly, come in quickly. I haven't seen you for a few years. You have grown so tall." "That's great. The dumplings in the pot are cooked. I'll stir-fry 2 more dishes and stay for dinner." Eric walked into the house with a smile, and when he saw Megan sitting in the living room, his face immediately fell. "Why are you staying here? Why don't you go home?" Megan refused to give in. "It's none of your business. Why are you here? Heh, you've already gone to check into a room with someone else, and you still have the nerve to come here. You." Megan's face turned red, but she couldn't retort and ran away in anger. His popularity was gone, but Eric was still angry. I was afraid he would spill it on me, so I quickly went to the kitchen to help. I was really nervous during this meal, fearing that Eric would say something inappropriate. 14. After dinner, I asked Eric to leave, but he turned a deaf ear to me. I was almost leaning over to his ear and telling him to get lost. He was able to ask my mother to take him in without batting an eyelid. His mother also warmly asked him to stay. "It's okay. You can sleep with Mason. His bed is big, and you can sleep freely." "Oh my God. You are sending your own son into the wolf's den with your own hands." At night, I was always worried that Eric was not behaving well, so I kept a close watch on him and didn't dare to sleep. But I didn't expect Eric to actually sleep so soundly without any sign of restlessness. Am I overthinking it? I went to bed hesitantly. It was not until the second half of the night that I suddenly felt something moving on my body, and it was very itchy. I reached out my hand, trying to grab something, but it was suddenly held back and I couldn't move. I opened my eyes dazedly, and Eric's handsome face enlarged in front of me. Eric came up to me and kissed me. Finally woke up. Lou. Eric covered my mouth with his hand. Speak softly. Uncle and Aunt are asleep. Eric, what do you want to do? He wouldn't want to force himself on me here. This bastard was so strong that he pinned me down with just one hand. Don't be afraid. I just want to be close to you. I've been pursuing you for so long, but you won't respond to my soft or hard words. I have no choice but to take this opportunity to get closer to you. This guy actually mistook harassment for pursuit. Shameless. Eric was not annoyed. How can I be so close to my wife if I have the dignity to do so? Eric's big head moved around my neck, and his furry hair slowly rubbed against my skin, which was a little itchy. My body froze. Eric seemed to sense something, raised his head from me and smiled awkwardly twice. It seems that Mason still likes me very much. He pinched my lips. But he is just being stubborn. I gritted my teeth and said, don't be so self-indulgent. This is just a normal reaction. A normal reaction to a man? Eric kissed me again and again. Admit it, Mason, you like me. I will definitely treat you well in the future. Just follow me and give it a try. Eric kissed me and asked, is it okay? Let's try it. He spit all over my face. I couldn't break free, so I had to say something soft. Brother, please let me go first. I'm not comfortable with you like this. Eric thought for 2 seconds, loosened his hands that were holding me, and instead hugged me tightly, pressing his legs on me. After a battle of wits and courage, I still couldn't break free from Eric's control. Instead, I found myself out of breath and even broke out in a sweat in the middle of winter. Eric leaned over to my ear and whispered, Mason, if you gasp again, I won't be able to control myself. I shut my mouth grimly. Eric didn't dare to make trouble anymore. Okay. Go to sleep. I'll hold you in my arms. 15. During the 2 days of New Year's greetings, Eric followed me closely like a little tail. He is a shameless person. He calls everyone he knows or doesn't know me as if they were friends with me, and he calls them more intimately than I do. This made some grandfathers a little confused. They thought they were too old and forgot whose grandson this was. When I came out of my third uncle's house, I ran into an acquaintance. It was the group of people who bullied me in junior high school. Although they had become fatter and uglier, I still recognized them at a glance. He obviously recognized me. Rubbing his hands together a little awkwardly, Mason, you're back. I heard you're staying in a big city now. I told you that you have great potential. In the past, they were the people I dared not to offend and wanted to get rid of the most, but now they look so miserable. Somehow, I feel a little sad. Eric came forward and held my hand, silently comforting me. The fat man then saw Eric behind me, and his expression changed instantly. Eric, we really didn't bully him anymore. Really? If you don't believe me, just ask him. The fat man pointed at me in panic and said, he obviously misunderstood something. After Eric left, I was very worried that these people would cause trouble for me again. But fortunately, these people never bullied me again, and would even avoid me when they saw me on the street. I thought they were defeated that time, but it turns out that Eric was behind it again. I looked at Eric and he smiled softly, a little bit ruffian-like. I know, otherwise I would have skinned you alive. Get lost. The fat man rolled away hurriedly, his thick layers of flesh trembling. I withdrew my gaze and looked at Eric again. Why are you moved by me? Then pledge yourself to me. Eric touched my chin deliberately in a sexy way. I broke free from his hand and asked, did you specifically warn them when you left? Eric stopped laughing and said, I'm worried about you. My eyes turned red. Then why didn't you come back to see me later? I missed you every day at that time. Eric was silent for a moment. Actually, I went back to look for you, but at that time, Megan was with you. In fact, I have liked you for a long time, even if I didn't understand it at the time. But after I left you and tasted the pain of separation, I understood all the things I didn't understand. But you like girls, and I can't drag you into this. I don't dare to see you again. I'm afraid that if I see you, I won't be able to let go. 16. I suddenly thought of the stranger who sent me a message reminding me that I was cuckolded. You weren't the one who sent me the message earlier? Have you been spying on me? Eric was afraid that I would misunderstand him, so he quickly explained, I sent the message, but I didn't spy on you. I was also surprised that you stayed in City A to work. Meeting you was an accident. I have been struggling over whether to look for you. I just happened to notice your girlfriend and Carter flirting with each other, so I wanted to take this opportunity to check on you. If you've given up on Megan, I'll fight for myself. If you insist on being cuckolded, I can only oblige you. What is this? I rolled my eyes at him and found a loophole in his words. So you already knew they were hooking up. This wasn't something you planned. Eric interrupted her before she could finish her words. Of course not. I just found out in advance. I didn't force them to hook up. I breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Eric looked at me sadly. Am I as bad as you think? I'm sorry, I overthought it. Eric immediately started to show off. It's okay. Just give me a kiss and I'll forgive you. 17. With his extraordinary shamelessness, Eric managed to hang out with me for several days right under my mom's nose. I was not as calm and composed as he was. I was worried all day long, and finally I couldn't stand it anymore and went back early. Mason, I just saw you getting out of a luxury car. Are you hooking up with a rich woman? As soon as I opened the door, Ian came over chattering. I handed him the specialty I brought from my hometown. What are you talking about? Eric just brought me back. He's the one who helped me move last time. Unexpectedly, Ian got even more excited. Mason, are you and Eric a couple? Ahem. I was drinking water and almost choked to death when Ian said this. Why do you think so? Ian smiled shyly. I am gay. The last time I saw Eric, I thought he was gay too. I think he treats you well. I hesitated, still not knowing how to explain the complicated relationship between Eric and I. Aren't you two a couple? You don't even like Eric? Who is so perfect? Ian sighed, as if it was unjust that I didn't like Eric. Is Eric so popular in the circle? I've had girlfriends before, but I don't think I'm that. Ian's eyes lit up. That's easy. Come on, let's go somewhere. The place you're talking about is a bar? This is no ordinary bar. I looked around and there was no woman around. I seemed to understand something and suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Ian was obviously a regular here, and soon he left me alone to chat with a man who came to chat with him. When I finished a glass of wine and went to look for him again, I found that he was already hugging that man and eating. Are all gays so unrestrained? Teen. Soon, a handsome little boy sat next to me. Yes, I can't find any other adjective to describe him except handsome. Handsome guy, would you like a drink? He handed me a card like a business card. There is a name and a QR code on it. Turn it over and there is a picture of a hotel printed on the other side. I quickly pushed the card back as if I had received a hot potato. Sorry. The little boy took the card, said what a pity and left. I was becoming more and more uncomfortable and just wanted to say goodbye to Ian and go back. But the other party was fighting so hard that I couldn't get in. I had no choice but to send him a message on WeChat and then I planned to leave. Suddenly, a man grabbed my arm and said, Come here, have a drink with me. Compared to the handsome little boy just now, the man who came to chat this time was much more muscular. He is a strong and muscular man. I don't really like such exaggerated muscles. I like those that are firm and elastic with clear muscle lines like Eric's. They are the best looking and comfortable to touch. My arm was pinched and it hurt a little. I frowned and said, Sorry, I have something else to do. I have to leave first. The man insisted, We are all here to have fun. Don't spoil the fun. I have a good job. He came close to me, flirting and saying, You'll know if you try it. I guarantee you'll be unable to stop. I turned cold and said, I don't want to try with you, let go. Perhaps the man felt humiliated, or perhaps he was drunk, so he started using brute force. He grabbed my neck and pressed me against the bar. Drink! Drink it for me. I'm giving you face, right? He forced a lot of alcohol into my mouth, and some of it went into my trachea, causing me to cough. I raised my leg, kicked the man at his weakest spot, and kicked him away. I didn't have enough power in that kick, and the man fell to the ground, rolling around while protecting his lower body. This guy seemed to be in great pain. I was afraid that I might make him hurt if I kicked him, so I was about to squat down to check. But I saw the man suddenly get up, grab the wine bottle at hand, and throw it at me. 19. I only had time to protect my head, but the pain did not come. I opened my eyes and Eric was standing in front of me. "Brother, are you okay?" "It's okay." Eric turned around and kicked the man over. After such a long time, the security manager finally came and captured the man. I quickly went behind Eric and checked his injuries. Eric saw how nervous I was and said with a smile, "I'm really fine. It didn't hit your head, but it was just a hit on your back. It will be fine in 2 days." I finally felt relieved. Follow the bar security staff to the police station to take a statement. The man took the initiative to pick a fight, and there were witnesses. Drugs were also detected in the wine he poured into me. We left after taking the statement. The man will probably have to stay in jail for a while. I didn't drink much, so I didn't make a fool of myself in front of others. But when I got in the car, I leaned into Eric's arms and couldn't bear it anymore. "Brother, I feel bad. Don't be afraid. I'll take you home now." Eric kissed me, put me in the passenger seat, and fastened my seatbelt. He took me to his house as quickly as possible. "Mason, can I take you home?" I nodded and held out my hands to him for a hug. "Okay." Eric got excited instantly and picked me up sideways. I listened to his footsteps, one by one, echoing the sound of my heartbeat. Eric is right, I actually liked him a long time ago, but I just forgot. I forgot the years we spent together. But the figure standing in front of me today overlaps with the figure he had when he was young. My vague memories suddenly became clear. He has always been protecting me. How could I forget it? 20. When we got to the door, Eric put me down and said, "Mason, it's not too late to regret now." I ignored him and waited for the door to open. I walked in first and turned around to ask him where the light was. Eric took a step forward and closed the door, and the last trace of light in the room went out. In the darkness, he hugged me tightly. "Mason, do you know what will happen when you come up here?" Of course I know that this old rogue has always wanted to abduct me. Now that I am here, the timing, the location, and the people are all right, there is no way he will let me go. But I didn't want to leave, so I stood on tiptoe and kissed him gently. "Brother, I just remembered something." Eric immediately returned the kiss. The hot and wet kiss seemed to melt me. "What's the matter? Let's talk on the bed." He picked me up and kissed me all the way to the bedroom, where we fell into the soft bed. I raised my hands and put them around his neck. "Brother, I like you." Eric burst into tears. "You are the one who likes me. I have liked you for almost 10 years. I closed my eyes and followed his rhythm. This time I was sober and willing. 21. The next day, I woke up in Eric's arms. "You're awake now," he hugged me. "You're finally in my hands." "Brother, I'm hungry." "Wait, I'll make you something to eat." Eric got out of bed refreshed. After we finally filled our stomachs, Eric started to settle accounts with me. "Why would you go to a place like that? Who took you there?" "I also had a score to settle." "Then how did you know I was there? Or, where are you going to play?" Eric coughed lightly and said, "Well, didn't I say before that I started a small business? That bar was opened by me and a brother. I just checked the accounts and had a drink occasionally. I didn't do anything else." Eric hastily distanced himself from me, fearing that I might misunderstand him, and he didn't bother to settle the score with me. My wife, you are my only sweetheart. Please don't wrong me." I rolled my eyes at him and said, "Who is your wife?" Eric immediately screamed, "You can't just turn your back on me after you get out of bed. Last night you—" I quickly blocked his mouth. "Shut up. Then tell me, what is our relationship now?" Eric insisted and insisted on having a formal relationship. I leaned forward and kissed him. "Okay, boyfriend." Eric's expression instantly turned from gloomy to bright, and the next second, his saliva was all over my face again. I stayed with Eric for a long time afterwards. At first he said he had a backache and asked me to stay and apply medicine to him. I agreed because I had to take the responsibility for the injury. Later he said that this place was close to my company and he could pick me up and drop me off at get off work so I could get up half an hour later. The temptation to get up later was too great, so I agreed again. The reason he gave recently was that Ian is also gay, and I have a boyfriend, so I cannot sleep with other men. It seems reasonable? Anyway, Eric and I have been living together for some time. Every morning when we wake up, we have a cup of warm water at hand. We go shopping for groceries and cook together, take a walk to digest the food, and snuggle on the sofa to watch TV. Simple and warm. This is the life I have always longed for. After being with Eric, I haven't had dreams about the past for a long time. One night I woke up suddenly, looked at Eric's sleeping face, and kissed him gently, fulfilling my childhood dream. Even if this road is very difficult, as long as he doesn't let me down, I will walk it with him. Extra. Someone said, either you explode in silence or you become distorted in silence. I think I'm a little perverted. Every day when I open my eyes and close my eyes, I am subjected to endless abuse and humiliation. No one saves me, no one helps me. If I tell my mother, she will just let me endure it again and again. Only Eric would teach me how to protect myself and how to find opportunities to fight back when those people bullied me. My repressed world finally had some room to breathe, and I was very happy to be with him. I was afraid that he would leave me one day, so I was very well behaved and listened to him in everything. I would stick to him, I would look at him pitifully, and I would hope for his mercy in my weak attitude. I held him tightly and refused to let go. This was the only warmth in my life. I wanted to be with him forever. During the time I worked in the bar, I realized for the first time that men can be together, so could Eric and I be together as well? So I got myself drunk on purpose and threw myself into his arms, but Eric just hugged me tightly and kissed me gently. One kiss is not enough. I want all of him. But before I could implement the next step of my plan, someone spread the word that I was a homosexual. It turned out that homosexuality was despised by everyone. I couldn't drag Eric into this, so I gave up my plan. Later, I injured 3 people, but everyone said it was Eric who did it. My memory is a little confused, and the past is blurry in my mind from time to time. Later, Eric left and never came back. I was admitted to a key high school, and the verbal abuse and bullying in my memory were all gone. Suddenly, I couldn't figure out whether I had been bullied. The memory is blurry, but that person remains deep in my mind. Until that person's figure became blurred in my mind. The person next to me became Megan. Everyone praised us as a perfect match made in heaven. Really? Then that's it. Eric extra. When I was at an age when I was hated by everyone, a poor little thing stuck to me. At first, it was just a momentary change of conscience that helped him drive away the people who bullied him. I didn't expect to be stuck. The little boy looked at me pitifully, as if I were his hero and his whole world. I admit that he greatly satisfied my ambition to save the world at that time. Saving the world is a little difficult, so let's save this poor little thing first. It's funny how a poor guy saves a poor guy. Day after day, without paying attention, the poor little thing grew into a big poor thing. You know what? It's quite fulfilling to watch someone grow up and protect him under your wings. I thought I would always stay by his side silently, until Mason went to work part-time at a bar. I didn't really want him to work in a place like that, but he was short of money, and unfortunately so was I. That day he was drunk and held me tightly, saying that he wanted to be with me forever. I said, okay, we will depend on each other from now on. He opened his little mouth, breathing slightly, and looked at me with dazed eyes. I seemed to be bewitched by something and couldn't help but lower my head. What a beast I am. Luckily, he doesn't remember it. Later, he was insulted by those people as a bunny selling his butt, and I always felt that I was partly responsible. I didn't dare get too close to him. I started to become silent, and I was on high alert all day long for fear that he would get hurt. But I failed the college entrance examination, and everyone advised me to go out to work. No, I can't leave. If I leave, what will happen to him? However, there is always a loophole, and Mason was still blocked. But he was great, he fought back hard. I coaxed him into giving me the steel pipe, and then forced those men to admit that I was the one who beat them. Mason still has to go to school, so let me clear the last hurdle for him. I didn't expect that my cheap father, whom I hadn't seen for 800 years, suddenly appeared and took me away. During the time I was away from Mason, I missed him day and night. Through my dreams about him again and again, I finally understood the source of my inexplicable thoughts. The year he finished the college entrance examination, I plucked up the courage to go back and see him. I wanted to tell him my feelings. I want to know where he got admitted so I can follow him there. But I saw a cute little girl following him, and the girl was holding his hand, and they were very close. I left again, and I admit that I was a coward. The next time I saw Mason, I was 27 years old. I suddenly wanted to try to reach out and touch the person who was out of reach during my youth. I succeeded. Fate has been kind to me. This time, I will never lose you again.